My name is Nick Spiller, and my Web 2 job is as a VC, and so I spend most of my time in your shoes listening to pitches at Capital Factory. There's about 6 associates on my team there, and on the weekends I've started a DAO, and I'll tell you a little bit of the story about it. It was very unintentional. Through Capital Factory, I was able to get involved in some very early Web3 investments. We're actually an investor in Vertalo since 2018. We also invested in a firm here locally called Multicoin, which did very, very well, and also Helium was another deal we did early on when I literally couldn't understand what anybody was talking about, but we were like, let's do it anyways. But I've always been pretty skeptical. I'm definitely not the all in on crypto or NFTs. I've dabbled, but certainly really have watched from the sidelines mostly until DAOs came around. I've really I have a big belief that DAOs, if we respond to them correctly, can be an awesome instrument. But it really for us started with a podcast in early 2021. I was the host of Beta Business podcast, and it was a weekly podcast for entrepreneurs, had 1,000 or so people listening a month, and we realized it's really hard to build a business as a podcast. There's not a huge revenue model there, and through this path of discovery, we first started to write a book, and we said, well, book's a nice thing we can sell. That's a product to supplement the podcast, right? And it was also realized writing a book was really hard when we got down that, and even just the process of getting published. I don't know if you have tried or have been involved, but it's pretty much a ripoff. And a lot of it's very hard to make money and have a big book in today's world. And finally, a mentor of mine said, Nick, do you want to make a lot of money with your book, or do you want to get a lot of exposure with your book? I said, well, I kind of want to be in the middle. I want to develop a very loyal audience, and I want to make sure when I write another book or do another podcast, I have people that are very excited to read it. And he's like, well, you should look at what Charles Dickens did and how he serialized his novels. I'll tell you a little bit about that, and then ultimately was discovered DAOs, basically. Charles Dickens, per capita, one of the most profitable, successful authors of all time. He has a lot of novels that have been very successful, but what was unique about his writing style is he released his chapters to his inner fans in increments. And every 3 weeks, he would release a new chapter. They'd have a meetup at towns all across the early United States and UK. And they would talk about the chapter, and they'd get feedback, and he would iterate the narrative of the book based on that feedback he got. And so as he wrote the book, he was able to, one, involve his audience and created this very engaged community, but also he ended up basically being able to have this adaptive approach to making the book better. And so really, with Book Club DAO, and I'll tell you real quick and wrap up and ask questions of really what we're doing, but Book Club DAO tries to take that, right, and maybe not even just allow people to give feedback in the writing process along the way, but we're allowing them to be co-authors in the book. And so Book Club is an initiative to co-author and publish a book as a community, and really trying to change this paradigm that there's one person's name on the front of these creative works, when in reality there's hundreds of people that contribute to them at varying degrees. And so basically, to join, you buy a Book Club NFT that makes you a co-author. You will then be plugged into our community, which is based around an NFT-gated Discord community server. We do monthly DAO dinners, we do community calls, and we are writing the book around in this unit called the Writing Quest. And so the money that we raised through the NFT sales are being used to stake writing quests for writing the book. And so the first writing quest we're doing is like propose the book that we're going to write. And you have to have a 500 to 1,000 word description, an outline, a couple other things. And we will then vote on all the submissions from the various co-authors. We have 10 co-authors right now, and our goal is to get it to 30. So it's a small group, but we'll get it to 30 or 50 probably by the end of the project. And whoever wins gets a equivalent to about $1,000 Ethereum bounty. And so, and we'll then go on and basically break out the sections of the book into other writing quests and tackle it over the course of probably a year or two using that basic model. And then at the end of it, your NFT serves as a royalty right to the book sales that we go off and do in perpetuity. And so that is Book Club DAO. You can email me either one about book if you want to connect with Capital Factory. Feel free to reach out as well. But I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. Sir. I've thought about aligning this with awesome people writing their biographies, maybe kind of what you're getting at. And so, one of my mentors and, a lot of people in town is Bob Metcalf, and I think he needs a biography. But how cool if it was like all of us that have worked with Bob Metcalf over the years got to, have monthly dinners and kind of wrote it as a community as this like ultimate fan club experience. So I've thought about that. And I think I tried to keep the writing quest and like the mechanics as simple as possible to start. And then I think there's a lot of other incentives and mechanisms we can, implement as we go. Kind of parameter on the book that is written into the white paper is 4 startup teams. Book 4 startup teams. Everything else is totally open to the writing quest that we'll write. And so, it could be a nonfiction business book. It could be a historical biography of a famous entrepreneur. Just anything that would be targeted towards founders, operators, investors, things like that.
Are you going to reward with extra drops of your token for extraordinary contribution? Because in writing, not every writing is created equal, and not every editing is created equal.
Yeah, probably will. We don't have any, I think, clear, special, tokens or anything. Everything's kind of one. It's all pretty uniform as far as right now. There's a few specialty teams, but I wouldn't say they're really rewards. It's more just, specific ways you can get involved. Sir, William.
Having produced something, you have a distribution question. To what extent, in the end, does the membership in the DAO really focus on distribution rather than production?
I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Is the network effects. Is once we do have a book to launch, we're going to have 50 or 100 co-authors that can go out and speak and share this instead of just one person, and they'll all have that ownership feeling. So I think that alone will be very, very powerful. And then we're working with groups like Capital Factory and other large startup community organizations to launch. I want to launch it at South by in Austin is kind of the big goal. Yeah.
Have you considered this securities law analysis on the
I have. So they're royalties, and so really I'm trying to build the DAO for where everything's going, and I think the one thing is that the way DAOs are regulated in the future are not going to be the way they're regulated today. At a high level, the legal strategy we're using is based off of a white paper written by the Andreessen Horowitz General Counsel, and we're actually going to we're filing to structure as an unregistered nonprofit association, and then the NFTs will hopefully be treated just like a royalty right, like as if you're partnering with an organization, like a publisher or something traditionally.
Question.
All right. Yes, sir.
Do you have to be a non-for-profit to
I think so. The unregistered nonprofit association basically allows us not to register our members as if we were an LLC, and it's like a homeowners association where this organization can drive profits for the assets of its members that are held personally, while having some kind of legal protection on the operations and activities of the group. I will. I haven't looked at that one. It's in Marshall Islands. It sounds like a nice place to visit. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. I'll hang around till the end.